If you were touring Israel, then Beersheba would probably be later on your itinerary. But because of its early significance in God's story, we're going to stop here first. When Abraham separated from his nephew Lot, he gave Lot his desire to settle in the cities of the Jordan River plain. So Abraham moved south to the area of Beersheba, and he dug wells here. It seems like an odd thing for Abraham to do, to give up a fertile area and to settle here. Perched on the edge of the Negev desert, to live here, Abraham would have to trust God to provide. Wells would be very important for anyone to survive and prosper in this desolate landscape. In fact, the herdsmen around him would soon appropriate for themselves the well that Abraham had dug, causing Abraham to have to redeem that well at the cost of 7 lambs. That's why it's called Beersheba, the well of the 7. This harsh landscape around Beersheba has witnessed other harsh episodes in Israel's history. It was near here that in fear, Abraham lied to the local ruler Abimelech about his wife Sarah only being his sister. Sarah ends up in Abimelech's harem, and she's only kept safe because God warns the man in a dream to keep his hands off her. Abraham sent Hagar and the boy Ishmael off to fend for themselves in this desolate region. But God met Hagar there and provides for them and promises to also bless Ishmael. From here, Abraham and Isaac first set out on that 3-day journey to the mountains of Moriah, believing the promise that God would provide himself a lamb for the sacrifice. Here, Jacob deceived his father Isaac, and disguising himself as Esau in order to steal the birthright, and as a result had to flee to self-exile in Haran, far away. When he had been sold into slavery by his brothers, Joseph probably passed through Beersheba on his way to Egypt. And when Jacob follows Joseph later into Egypt, he pauses here at Beersheba, offers sacrifices, and seeks blessing from God. God tells Jacob to proceed, that God himself will go with him into Egypt, and God himself will bring them back out of Egypt. So Beersheba is a desolate place where human deception and injustice have repeatedly occurred. And yet, over and over again, human unfaithfulness and treachery are met by God's intervention and restoration. That covenant, made at the cost of 7 lambs to provide water for life, anticipates the new covenant that God would make through God's Son. Jesus is the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world, and from him flows rivers of living water. You might say that we live in a place like Beersheba. Like Abraham, we seek to trust God and to follow him, and yet deception and injustice abound in dry and thirsty lives. We fail and fall short, but God has redeemed us by the blood of the Lamb of God and his covenant with us. Like Abraham, we fail. And like Abraham, we continue to believe, having faith not in ourselves, but in God who saves us and keeps us. Paul tells us in Romans 4 to continue in Abraham's faith, believing and trusting God. And when you believe, we don't need to selfishly make a way for ourselves at the expense of others. Like those episodes with Lot or Abimelech or Hagar or Jacob or Joseph's brothers, in the midst of any injustice or unfairness, we can trust God to ultimately deliver, rescue, restore us, because Jesus, God's Lamb, has been provided to do just that. If you've enjoyed this devotional visit to Beersheba, then go to bpchurch.com and download my free devotional guide, 30 Days in the Land of the Book. I'll see you there.